The space station floated quietly above the blue planet below. To Daniel, a human engineer, the view never grew old. He had worked in orbit for years, repairing systems, teaching new recruits, and sometimes guiding visiting scientists. Today, however, he was not expecting a normal visitor. Today, he was told, he would meet someone important, an alien diplomat on her very first mission outside her own world. Daniel stood in the docking bay, arms crossed, as the shuttle doors opened. From the light stepped a young woman, tall and slender, with features not so different from humans, though her skin carried a faint silver tone and her eyes shone a little brighter than natural light. She wore a long flowing robe of pale blue, marked with the crest of her people. She paused at the door, blinking quickly, as if she was still unsure about what she was walking into. Daniel tried to keep his smile friendly. He had met many species before, but he knew the first impression was important. He bowed his head slightly, the way the diplomats liked, and said, "Welcome aboard. I'm Daniel. I'll be your guide while you're here." The alien girl hesitated before answering. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "My name is Liara," she said. "Please take it easy with me. It is my first time." Daniel raised his eyebrows, understanding at once what she meant. She was nervous, a beginner at this kind of meeting. He could see her fingers twitching as she clutched the edge of her frig. Instead of teasing or showing impatience, Daniel gave a small nod and spoke gently. "Don't worry. You're safe here. I'll make sure everything is simple." Liara let out a quiet breath, as though she had been holding it since she stepped off the shuttle. The docking crew continued their work behind them, but Daniel focused only on her. He remembered his orders. Treat the alien diplomat with care, guide her through human customs, and help her complete her mission. But what he saw was not a strong representative of her people. She looked more like a student pushed into a classroom far too early. He guided her down the hallway, explaining as they walked. "This station is neutral ground. Many species come, here to talk, to trade, to share knowledge. No one is here to harm you. Everyone knows the rules." Liara nodded slowly, her eyes scanning the walls, the lights, the humans passing by. Every detail seemed new to her. At one point, she whispered, "So many people here and none of them even look at me." "I thought they would." Daniel chuckled softly. "On this station, visitors are normal. You'll see more species in the dining hall tonight. People here learned a long time ago not to stare too much." Her steps grew a little steadier, but she still clung to her robe as if it were a shield. Daniel noticed the way she bit her lip whenever she passed another officer. Clearly, she had trained in words and manners, but not in the noise and bustle of a crowded station. They reached the council chamber where the first discussion would be held. It was only a small meeting, not the full council, just a chance for her to introduce herself to human representatives. Daniel could sense her unease growing again as the doors opened. Inside, the room was bright and filled with chairs around, a wide table. A handful of humans in formal suits waited patiently. Liara froze at the doorway. Her voice dropped so only Daniel could hear. "Please. It is my first time speaking before humans. What if I make a mistake?" Daniel glanced at her. He saw the fear in her silver eyes, the tightness in her throat as she swallowed. He leaned closer, lowering his own voice. "Then you'll make a mistake and we'll fix it together. Nobody here wants to see you fail. Remember, you're not alone." For a moment, she stared at him as though searching for some hidden trick, but his face remained calm, steady, and open. She finally nodded, though her fingers still trembled. The meeting began. Liara introduced herself in careful words, each sentence rehearsed, yet her accent made some words stumble. Daniel watched. The human officials exchanged quick glances. A few smiled politely. One wrote notes, another adjusted his glasses. None of them laughed, but Liara still flushed with embarrassment. At one point, she lost her place in her speech. Her lips parted. No words came out. The silence stretched painfully. She turned her head almost desperately toward Daniel. He gave A single nod, small but clear. Keep going. She closed her eyes, breathed once, then spoke again. My people wish to understand humanity. We know you are strong, brave, and sometimes unpredictable. But we believe we can learn from you. We believe peace can be built. Her voice grew steadier with each word. By the time she finished, she stood taller, and her trembling hands had stilled. The humans nodded with respect. They asked gentle questions, nothing too sharp, and Daniel felt relief spread across the room. The first test was passed. After the meeting, Liara sagged against the wall in the corridor. She pressed her hand to her chest, breathing fast. I thought my heart would break apart, she whispered. Daniel laughed softly. You did fine, better than fine. You spoke honestly. That matters more than perfect words. She gave him a weak smile. Please, do not laugh at me. It is my first time after all. Daniel shook his head. I'm not laughing at you. I'm proud of you. You kept going even when it was hard. Something shifted in her expression then. Her eyes softened, her shoulders relaxed. She looked at him not as a guide or guard, but as a friend. For the first time since arriving, she seemed less like a nervous diplomat and more like someone who could believe she belonged here. As they walked back to her quarters, Daniel thought about the fragile bridge just beginning to form. He had no idea what dangers tomorrow might bring. But he knew this much. If humanity wanted allies among the stars, it would start with moments like this. One human choosing patience, and one alien brave enough to take her first steps into the unknown. Liara paused at her door. Before entering, she looked back at him. Daniel, she said softly, thank you for taking it easy with me. And with that, she disappeared inside, leaving Daniel with a faint smile on his face. He had guided many through difficult repairs and technical problems, but this was different. This was about trust, fear, and courage. And it was only the beginning. The station lights dimmed suddenly. Daniel frowned. He had spent enough years working in orbit to recognize the difference between routine adjustments and real trouble. This was not normal. The air hummed, and the walls vibrated with a low, uneven sound. Liara, who had just finished her first formal meeting, looked around nervously. Her silver eyes widened. What is happening? Did I do something wrong? Daniel shook his head quickly. No, this isn't about you. Stay calm. He tapped his wrist communicator, but it only buzzed with static. Communications are down. That means the station systems are under stress or under attack. Her face paled, and she clutched the edge of her robe. Attack? But this is neutral ground. No one is allowed. Rules don't matter to everyone, Daniel cut in firmly. Some people don't respect peace. Before she could respond, the alarms wailed. Red lights flashed across the corridor, and the automated voice of the station announced, Warning. Unauthorized ships detected. All personnel to defense stations. Liara froze. This was beyond her training. She had studied language, culture, and history, but not chaos. Not alarms, not war. She backed against the wall, whispering, I don't know what to do. Please, it is my first time in danger like this. Daniel stepped closer and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Look at me. You're not alone. Do what I say, and you'll be fine. She swallowed hard, nodding. I will try. The hallway, filled with rushing footsteps as security teams moved toward their posts. Daniel led Liara in the opposite direction, toward a safer part of the station. He knew that during an attack, untrained diplomats would only get in the way of soldiers. His job now was simple. Keep her alive. They entered a side corridor. Sparks rained from a ceiling panel as the power grid strained. Liara gasped and covered, her head stumbling after him. Daniel slowed his pace so she could keep up. Don't panic, he told her. The worst thing you can do is freeze. But I cannot fight, she said, her voice breaking. My people never trained me for this. We believe in peace. Then you'll learn something new today, Daniel replied, his tone firm but not unkind. Peace is good, but sometimes you need to survive to protect it, and survival means learning quickly. He pulled open a storage compartment and handed her a small emergency kit. Take this. It has food rations, water packs, and a basic medical. If I say hide, you hide. If I say run, you run. Got it? Her fingers shook as she clutched the kit, but she nodded. Got it. They continued down the corridor. The sound of distant blasts echoed through the station walls, each one making Liara flinch. She whispered, "Who would dare attack here?" Daniel grimaced. Pirates, or worse. But whoever it is, they didn't come by accident. A sudden crash shook the floor beneath them. The lights flickered again. Liara stumbled, nearly dropping the kit, but Daniel steadied her with a quick grip. For a moment their eyes met, and she drew strength from the calmness in his expression. He guided her into a maintenance passage, narrower and darker. This way. Fewer people know about these tunnels. They'll give us a chance to move without being seen. Liara hesitated at the dark passage. It looks dangerous. Daniel managed a thin smile. Dark is safer than wide open. They moved. Through the maintenance tunnels, their footsteps echoing faintly. Liara whispered questions to keep her mind steady. Why are you helping me? You could run alone and be safer without me slowing you down. Daniel snorted softly. Because you're under my care. Because your safety matters. And because humans don't leave people behind. She stared at him in silence for a few moments, her heart beating faster. His words carried a weight she did not expect. As they neared another junction, voices echoed ahead. Harsh, guttural sounds. Not human. Daniel motioned for silence and pulled Liara against the wall. He peered around the corner. Two armed intruders in ragged armor were forcing open a door. Pirates, just as he suspected. Liara trembled. They will find us. Not if we stay smart, Daniel murmured. He reached into the tool pouch on his belt and pulled out a plasma torch. It wasn't a weapon, not really, but in the right hands, it could be used to defend. He turned back to her. Listen, I need you to breathe. Slow and steady. No sound. We'll wait until they move on. Her lips parted, and she whispered, Please, take it easy. I do not know how to be quiet in fear. Daniel gave a small nod. Then watch me. Do what I do. Together they crouched low, pressed against the cold metal wall, and waited. The pirates muttered to each other in their harsh language, finally prying the door open and stepping inside. Daniel took the chance, grabbing Liara's hand and pulling her quietly past the intersection. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the pirates would hear it, but they did not look back. Once they were clear, Daniel let out a breath. See? You did it. First lesson in survival. Sometimes silence is stronger than weapons. Liara shook her head in disbelief. I never thought I could move like that. I felt frozen, yet I followed. You did well, he said firmly. Fear doesn't disappear. You just learn to act anyway. They reached a sealed bulkhead door. Daniel tapped the panel, but the system was offline. He muttered, We'll have to power it manually. He handed her a crank-like tool. Hold this steady while I connect the power link. Liara stared at the tool. I don't know how. Then now is the time to learn, Daniel told her, guiding her hands into place. He worked quickly, showing her where to press, how to hold. Sparks flew, but together they forced the mechanism to turn. The heavy door finally slid open, giving them access to a safer chamber. Liara blinked at the tool in her hands. I thought I was useless in danger, but I helped open this door. Daniel grinned. That's lesson 2. You're stronger than you think. You just needed someone to show you how. They entered the chamber, locking it behind them. For now, they had a small pocket of safety. Liara sank to the floor, clutching the kit in her lap. Her voice trembled, but her words carried more courage than before. This is all new for me. My first time facing fear, my first time learning survival. But maybe I can grow. Daniel sat beside her, listening to the distant echoes of battle outside. He gave her shoulder a reassuring pat. You can, and you will, because you're not alone in this, and because you've already started. Liara looked at him with wide, shining eyes. For the first time since the alarms began, she smiled, small, fragile, but real. The station was still under siege, danger was far from over, and the real struggle had only just begun. But Daniel knew this. The timid alien diplomat was learning fast, and he also knew one simple truth. Sometimes, the first time was the hardest, but it was also the beginning of something far greater. The chamber where Daniel and Liara rested was quiet for only a few minutes. The silence did not last long. Soon, the distant thuds of boots and the muffled crack of weapons echoed again through the station's walls. The pirates were spreading, searching every corridor and chamber for loot, hostages, and perhaps something more. Liara sat stiffly, gripping the emergency kit as though it were her last connection to safety. Her silver eyes darted to the locked door again and again, each sound from outside making her flinch. They are coming closer, she whispered. We will be found. Daniel was crouched near the panel, checking the power supply. His face was calm, but his mind was sharp with thought. They'll sweep through, yes, he admitted. But that doesn't mean they'll get us. He turned and gave her a reassuring look. Remember what I told you, panic helps the enemy. Control your breathing, that's how you think clearly. Liara tried, but her chest still rose and fell too fast. She whispered, I was trained to speak in halls, not hide in tunnels. My words are my skill, not this. Daniel set down his tool and sat across from her. Then think of it this way. Survival is a kind of speech. You're speaking to danger with your actions. If you freeze, your silence says, I give up. If you fight or hide smart, it says, I am still here. Which message do you want to give? She blinked at him, startled by the simple but powerful idea. Slowly, she nodded. I want to say, I am still here. Before Daniel could answer, the door shook. Someone was trying to force it open. Liara gasped and scrambled back, but Daniel raised his hand, motioning for quiet. The pirates had found them faster than he expected. He whispered, Stay behind me. Do not move. Until I tell you. The door screeched as a cutting torch began to eat through the lock. Sparks rained down. Daniel grabbed his plasma torch, the closest thing he had to a weapon, and crouched low. His heart raced, but his eyes stayed steady. He had faced raiders before. They weren't the most disciplined fighters, but they were dangerous in groups. The metal gave way and the door burst open. 2 pirates stormed inside, their armor patched and rough, their weapons jagged. They sneered at Daniel and Liara, as if they had already won. Daniel did not wait. He lunged forward, swinging the plasma torch in a bright arc. The first pirate staggered back, shocked by the sudden resistance. Daniel shouted, Liara, move! Liara stumbled to the side, clutching the kit. Her whole body shook, but she remembered Daniel's words. Freezing was the same as giving up. She crouched low, staying out of the line of fire, even as her heart hammered in her chest. The second pirate aimed his weapon, but Daniel was already moving. He ducked low, grabbed a loose pipe from the wall, and slammed it into the pirate's arm. The weapon clattered to the floor. Daniel's movements were rough but fueled by pure determination. The pirates snarled, surprised that one unarmored human dared to resist them so fiercely. One lunged forward again, but Daniel blocked with the pipe, sparks flying as metal clashed. The struggle was brutal and close. Daniel gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay between the intruders and Liara. Liara's fear rose again as she watched. She wanted to hide her eyes, but she could not look away. This was her first time seeing true combat. No training hall speech, no calm discussion, only survival. Her mind screamed, I cannot do this, but another thought whispered louder. He is protecting me. I cannot let him stand alone. Her gaze fell on the weapon dropped by the pirate. With trembling hands, she crawled forward, her robe dragging across the floor. The noise of the fight filled her ears. Daniel's grunts, the clash of metal, the pirate's growls. She reached out and grabbed the weapon. It was heavier than she expected, the surface cold and rough. Daniel noticed her movement out of the corner of his eye, but he did not shout for her to stop. Instead, he shouted, "Hold it steady! Point it at them!" Liara's arms shook as she raised the weapon. Her voice cracked as she cried, "Stay back!" The pirates paused for only a moment, but that pause gave Daniel his chance. He shoved the first pirate into the wall and swung the pipe hard at the second, knocking him to the floor. The two raiders, surprised by resistance from both a human and a timid alien diplomat, cursed and scrambled out of the chamber. Daniel quickly slammed the door shut again, jamming the lock with his tool. He turned and saw Liara standing frozen, still holding the weapon with wide eyes. Her whole body trembled and tears glistened at the corners of her eyes. She whispered, I almost dropped it. My hands would not listen to me." Daniel stepped closer, gently taking the weapon from her shaking hands. "But you didn't drop it. You stood your ground. That's all that matters." Liara sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands. "It was my first time pointing a weapon. I was so afraid I could hardly breathe." Daniel crouched beside her. "That's normal. Fear never goes away, but you didn't freeze. You acted. That's the start of strength." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with confusion and awe. "How do humans fight like this? You face danger as if it is nothing." Daniel gave a tired smile. "It's never nothing. Every time is hard. But humans learn to fight because we must. Because sometimes survival demands it." Liara's breathing slowed, and slowly, her trembling stopped. She wiped her eyes and sat straighter. "I do not want to be useless anymore. If danger comes again, teach me what to do. Even if I fail, I want to try." Daniel nodded firmly. "Good. That's the spirit that keeps you alive. From now on, you and I are a team." The sounds of battle still echoed beyond the chamber. More pirates would come. The struggle was far from over. But something had changed inside Liara. She was still afraid, yes, but she no longer wanted to hide behind fear. For the first time, she wanted to learn what it meant to stand beside a human in the face of danger. Daniel knew they would need every ounce of courage for what was coming next. He tightened his grip on the pipe and glanced at her with respect. "Get ready, Liara. The real fight hasn't even started yet." And with those words, the two unlikely allies prepared themselves for the storm that was sure to break through. The station's walls once again. The station shook again, harder this time, as if a giant hand had struck its side. The lights flickered, and dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far off, a blast tore through the hull, and the automated voice called out warnings of decompression. Daniel steadied himself against the wall. His face grew tense. They're not just raiding for supplies anymore. They're tearing the place apart. Liara clutched the edge of her robe tighter, her silver eyes wide. Why? Why destroy the station if they want loot? This makes no sense. Daniel glanced at her, his jaw tightening. Unless it's not about loot. He led her down the corridor again, this time moving with more urgency. Liara tried to match his pace, though her steps were unsteady. Her mind raced with fear and questions. Every sound in the distance made her flinch, yet she forced herself not to slow down. She had promised him she would try, and she meant it. They ducked into another service tunnel, crawling through the narrow space. Daniel's voice was low, but steady as he explained. "Think, Liara. Your mission was diplomacy. Your people wanted an alliance with humans. What if someone didn't want that alliance to happen?" Liara froze in place. Her breath caught in her throat. "You mean this attack is not random? Someone hired these pirates to stop me?" Daniel's eyes met hers. "It's possible. Too much coincidence otherwise. Pirates attack on the very day of your first meeting. That's no accident." Her chest tightened with dread. For so long, she had believed her mission was simply to speak, to share words of peace. But now she saw the larger shadow behind it. If what Daniel said was true, her presence here was the target. She whispered, "If I fail, if I die here, then the alliance fails. And my people will believe humans cannot protect even one guest. Daniel's voice hardened. Which means we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for the future of both our people. The weight of those words pressed heavily on her shoulders. She wanted to collapse, to admit she was too weak for such responsibility. But Daniel's steady presence reminded her of what he had already taught her. Freezing was the same as giving up. She clenched her fists and nodded. Then I must not fail. Even if it is my first time, I must not. Before Daniel could reply, the tunnel echoed with approaching boots. The pirates had tracked them again. Daniel motioned for silence and pulled Liara into a shadowed alcove. 2 pirates passed by, speaking in their harsh tongue. Liara strained to understand but caught only fragments. Then one phrase made her blood run cold. It was her own name. She looked at Daniel in shock. They are hunting me. They said my name. Daniel's expression darkened. Then it's confirmed. This whole attack is about you. The pirates moved further down the tunnel, unaware of the pair hiding in the shadows. Daniel and Liara slipped out behind them, heading in the opposite direction. At last they reached a control hub, a small room filled with glowing panels and humming machinery. Daniel moved quickly to the main console, typing commands. I need to see what's happening across the station. The screens flickered to life, showing images from different sections. Fires burned in the docking bay. Security teams fought desperately against the raiders. Civilians huddled in sealed chambers, fear clear in their faces. Liara's heart ached as she watched. So much suffering. Because of me. Daniel shook his head. No. Because of the ones who sent these raiders. Don't blame yourself. 1. Screen caught his attention. A pirate leader barking orders into a communicator. Behind him stood a flag with a symbol Liara recognized instantly. Her breath caught. That mark. It belongs to the rival houses of my own world. They did this. They wanted to stop me from joining hands with humanity. Daniel exhaled sharply. Then it's political sabotage. They're using outsiders to do their dirty work. Liara felt her knees weaken, but she gripped the console to stay upright. My people will never believe in humanity if I vanish here. They will think you abandoned me. Daniel turned to her, his expression fierce with determination. Then we make sure you don't vanish. You walk out of this alive and you tell them the truth yourself. The station shook again. A voice came through the emergency channel, broken with static but clear enough. All units, they're breaching the central council chamber. Repeat, the pirates are pushing to the heart of the station. Daniel cursed under his breath. If the council chamber fell, not only would the station lose its command center, but every record of the meeting, Liara's first words, her attempt at peace, would be destroyed. He grabbed a tool belt from the wall and slung it over his shoulder. Then he turned to Liara. This is it. We have to fight back. Not just for us, but for the whole mission. Are you with me? Liara's heart pounded. Fear screamed inside her, but another voice rose louder, the one she had found during the last struggle. She straightened her shoulders. Yes, I am with you. Teach me what I must do. Daniel gave a brief approving nod. He handed her a small shield device, a portable barrier used by engineers to protect against explosions. Hold this. Stay behind me, but if shots come your way, raise the shield. Don't hesitate. She gripped it tightly. Her hand still shook, but her eyes were steadier now. I will not hesitate. Together, they slipped out of the control hub and moved toward the central chamber. The corridors grew louder with every step. Blaster fire, shouts, explosions. Smoke hung in the air, and the floor shook with each impact. When they reached the edge of the council wing, they saw the pirates in full force, dozens of them flooding into the chamber, weapons raised. Human guards fought back bravely, but they were outnumbered. Daniel clenched his jaw. We can't let them take this. He looked at Liara. Ready? She swallowed, then nodded. Ready. Daniel charged forward, swinging his improvised weapon. Liara followed, raising the shield just as a blast shot toward them. The barrier flared, holding strong. She gasped at the impact. but she did not. Drop it. Daniel fought fiercely, each strike fueled by grit and stubborn will. Liara stayed close, her shield protecting him whenever enemy fire grew too heavy. For the first time, she was not only a burden to be protected, she was protecting too. The human guards rallied at the sight of Daniel and Liara fighting side by side. Their line steadied, and slowly, the pirates began to falter. But as the battle raged, Liara caught sight of the pirate leader. He stood at the far side of the chamber, barking orders, his eyes locked on her. He pointed, shouting her name again. The pirates redoubled their efforts to reach her. Liara's heart froze. This was proof beyond doubt. She was the true target. She shouted to Daniel over the chaos, her voice filled with urgency. "They want me. If I stay, they will never stop. What should I do?" Daniel turned, sweat and smoke streaking his face. His voice was fierce. "Then we don't let them take you. We end this together." In that moment, Liara understood fully. This was no longer only her first mission or her first time in danger. This was a test of trust, of courage, and of the bond forming between human and alien. And she knew one thing. She could not let fear decide for her anymore. Smoke filled the council chamber. The cries of battle echoed against the high walls. Daniel swung his pipe with raw strength, knocking aside a pirate who lunged too close. Sparks burst from shattered panels, and the air smelled of metal and fire. Beside him, Liara held the small shield device high. Blasts of energy struck it, but she did not falter. Her arms ached, her legs trembled, yet she kept her ground. She was no longer hiding behind Daniel. She was standing with him. The pirate leader shouted orders, his harsh voice carrying above the chaos. He pointed straight at Liara. "Take her alive." Daniel's heart tightened. "Stay behind me," he shouted, but Liara shook her head. "No, if they want me, then I must not show fear. If I hide, they will win." Her words carried a new strength, one Daniel had not heard before. She had been timid when she arrived, but now her voice rang with resolve. The pirates charged again. Daniel fought fiercely, blocking and striking, while Liara raised the shield to protect them both. A human guard tossed Daniel a proper weapon, a blaster rifle. He caught it with one hand, fired quickly, and forced the pirates to scatter back. But the leader was clever. He circled, looking for an opening. His eyes burned with the hunger of someone who wanted victory at any cost. Daniel knew the man would not give up until Liara was taken. "Liara," Daniel said quickly, "listen to me. If I fall, you keep moving. Don't stop. Don't let them take you." Liara's silver eyes filled with emotion. "No, Daniel, I will not leave you. You have carried me through this danger. Now I will stand beside you, even if I fall too." Her words hit him harder than any blow. For a brief moment, despite the battle, Daniel felt a fierce pride. This young alien diplomat, who had once shaken at every sound, now stood firm with the heart of a warrior. The fight surged again. Pirates leapt forward and Daniel fired, each shot precise. Liara pushed the shield to cover the guards as they advanced. Together, humans and the alien diplomat drove the raiders back step by step. Then came the turning point. The pirate leader stormed forward, knocking his own soldiers aside. He swung a jagged blade at Daniel. Daniel blocked with the rifle, sparks flying. The two clashed in the center of the chamber, strength against strength. Liara's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to run, but she remembered Daniel's lessons. Freezing means giving up. Act even in fear. She spotted a loose cable sparking near the floor. Without hesitation, she grabbed it and swung it toward the leader. Electricity crackled as it struck his side. He roared in pain, staggering back. Daniel seized the chance and slammed the butt of the rifle into his chest, knocking him to the ground. The chamber fell silent for a heartbeat. The pirates, seeing their leader fall, hesitated. Human guards pressed forward, shouting with renewed strength. One by one, the raiders fled, retreating through the smoke-filled halls. The battle was over. Liara collapsed to her knees, trembling all over. The shield device slipped from her hand. Her chest heaved, and tears streaked her cheeks, not of weakness but of relief. She whispered, We survived. Daniel lowered the rifle and leaned against the table, breathing heavily. His muscles ached, his arms were bruised, but he managed a tired smile. We did. And you were incredible. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. I was afraid every moment, but because of you, I did not run. I did not give up. Daniel crouched beside her. That's all that matters. Courage isn't about having no fear, it's about standing even when you're afraid. For a long moment, they just sat in the broken council chamber, surrounded by smoke and silence. The surviving guards began securing the area, but no one disturbed them. Everyone knew what had just happened. A human engineer and an alien diplomat had fought side by side, and together they had protected the heart of the station. Later, when the fires were out and the pirates were gone, the council gathered again. The chamber was scarred and damaged, but the people inside stood straighter. Their faces lit with respect. Liara stepped forward. Her robe was torn, her hair messy, but her voice was clear. I came here for peace. At first I was afraid. It was my first time leaving my home, my first time speaking with humans, my first time facing danger. I thought I could not do it, but I learned something tonight. She turned and looked at Daniel, who stood silently at her side. I learned that humanity does not abandon those who are weak. They give their strength so others may stand. They do not only fight for themselves, they fight for their friends. Because of this, I know my people can trust them. And I know that I can trust them. Her words echoed through the chamber. The humans present bowed their heads with respect. Daniel, though not one for speeches, felt a lump in his throat. After the council dismissed, Liara walked quietly beside him through the dim corridors. For the first time since her arrival, her steps were steady. She no longer clutched her robe or avoided every gaze. She carried herself with quiet pride. At the door to her quarters, she paused. She turned to him and said softly, "Do you remember my words when I first arrived? I asked you to take it easy with me because it was my first time." Daniel chuckled, quietly. "I remember." Liara smiled faintly, her silver eyes warm. "It was my first time in many things, but because of you, I survived, and I will never forget it." She stepped inside, leaving Daniel in the hallway. He leaned against the wall, exhausted but content. He had fixed many machines in his life, repaired many systems, but this time he had done something greater. He had helped someone find her courage, and in doing so, helped shape the beginning of an alliance between two worlds. As the station drifted quietly above the blue planet once more, Daniel allowed himself one final thought before heading to his quarters. Sometimes the hardest battles were not fought with weapons, but with patience, kindness, and the strength to guide another through their first steps. And in that, humanity had once again proved why they were worthy of being called friends among the stars.